let's cut to the chase. Your hyper-specific Google Ads exact match keywords, yeah, they're officially dead. Sounds brutal, right? But by 2026, manual keyword matching is gone. You literally have to pivot immediately. Okay, let's dive into this. AI agents, not your standard search bars, are controlling the buying journey now. Enter AI Max. Google is replacing legacy dynamic search ads with this intent-driven, AI-assisted query expansion. We went from those granular manual keywords in the 2010s, accelerating fast straight into full AI automation. Google is aggressively phasing out those legacy structures. Soon, your old dynamic campaigns will be totally obsolete. May 20th, 2026. Google Marketing Live. Mark it down, guys. That's the critical deadline when AI takes over. AI Max instantly handles the heavy lifting: creative development, targeting, dynamic copy adaptation, and intent-driven query expansion. And this brilliantly illustrates the pain. You spend all week adjusting bids manually, AI rewrites copy instantly. Seriously, tasks that used to take us weeks to assemble can now be generated in mere seconds. But here's the upside. It's not a loss of control. You're evolving into a signal engineer now. So how do we actually survive this? Easy. Audit legacy structures, fix data inputs, and test immediately. So the crucial point is this: AI automation is literally only as good as the rules you control. You absolutely must adopt AEO and GEO. You're persuading large language models now, not just human searchers. Please transition your campaigns today. Do not wait until Google forces the migration and wrecks your ROI. So, when AI and human judgment finally combine, will you just react to the market or design it? Okay, let's dive into this explainer. Gen Alpha is literally resetting the internet's grammar right now. Why are million-dollar brand budgets getting absolutely crushed by $0 chaotic teenage posts? It's wild. Enter chaos culture. This isn't just a phase, folks. It's a total shift in what actually grabs attention. And this brilliantly illustrates the divide. Scripted million-dollar sets are out. Unhinged microdramas are in. By 2026, Gen Alpha hits 16. That's a massive demographic reset. Your old playbook, officially obsolete. They don't just consume culture, they code it. Treat them like passive viewers, and they'll punish you. You see, over 52% of users are now highly skeptical of AI-generated, hyper-polished slop. So the crucial point is, perfection equals fake. Algorithmic polish instantly signals inauthenticity to viewers today. The antidote? The human glitch. A raw typo or video stutter is visceral proof of life. Drop that sterile corporate mask. You gotta leave the raw, sloppy insides of your process completely visible. Now, what's really interesting about this is social first is an org chart. You must structurally centralize creators. Passive impressions are dead, guys. Stop broadcasting and start co-creating episodic stories with your micro communities. Let's move to and see how this builds the playbook. Ditch polish, highlight glitches, and centralize creators. So here's the ultimate challenge for your strategy. Is your brand brave enough to be messy? Okay, let's dive into the biggest shakeup in digital marketing right now, the death of traditional SEO. So, is traditional SEO actually dead? Looking at the latest data, the answer is an absolute yes. Listen to this. Traditional Google search is officially dead in 2026. The search bar is basically AI now. Because of this, publishers expect a massive 40% drop in search traffic over the next 3 years. Why? Because Google's AI overviews now totally dominate the top of your search results, controlling all discovery. This means the old playbook is out the window. Keyword stuffing will absolutely no longer save you. Let's look at a super frustrating zero-click scenario that illustrates exactly what marketers are facing right now. You spend thousands on a perfectly optimized blog post, but an answer engine simply reads and summarizes it. The user gets their answer right at the top of the page and literally never clicks your link. So here's the bottom line. You must pivot immediately if you want your brand to survive. You've got to pivot to generative engine optimization, or GEO, to show up in those AI summaries. To win in this wild new era, you literally must treat AI models as your primary audience. Restructure your website's FAQ pages today to directly answer specific buyer questions with totally clear terms. When you use clean structures and concise answers, the AI actually cites your brand in its summaries. Instead of spamming keywords, group related questions together, explain trade-offs clearly, and include super strong trust signals. Start treating your FAQs as strategic assets. They're definitely no longer just filler at the bottom of a page. And remember, while AI delivers the quick answer, human trust and authenticity still drive that final conversion. So, I'll leave you with this. Is your website actually ready for the AI bots controlling your visibility? Welcome to Due Diligence, the explainer. Let's jump right in. Are you seriously investing millions based on just a pitch deck? That is a huge mistake. Never, ever trust unaudited numbers. Imagine buying a booming brand only to uncover a massive lawsuit that literally bankrupts the company. But right here is the actual catch. Rigorous due diligence across financial, tax, legal, and operational systems completely exposes those hidden liabilities. So, what fatal flaw is your target hiding? Download my study notes today to find out.
Welcome to this explainer. Let's dive right into a massive, disruptive truth shaking up the finance industry today.
Here's the harsh reality. Billing clients by the hour is literally destroying your accounting firm's profits.
So why is this happening right now? Well, client expectations have completely shifted. According to Robert Half's 2026 trends, clients now demand fee structures based on measurable outcomes, not hours.
The modern market pays for the actual financial impact you deliver. Hours logged simply don't cut it anymore.
Stand out by demonstrating clear impacts, things like improved reporting accuracy, stronger forecasting, and definitely enhanced compliance.
Okay, let's bring this down to earth with a pretty stark, real-world comparison.
Imagine grinding through a complex reconciliation process. It takes you a grueling 20 hours to finish.
And after all that intense manual effort, you just bill a capped, standard hourly rate. Now, picture a competitor. They use AI to finish that exact same reconciliation in just 10 minutes. Crazy part? That AI competitor charges double based entirely on the tax savings they uncovered.
AI doesn't just fix things. It completely exposes weak, fragile, hour-dependent processes in your firm. Here is your blunt reality check. You've got to stop punishing your team for being efficient.
Time to abandon the billable hour, focus on financial outcomes, and strictly charge for value delivered.
I challenge you, restructure just one client proposal today to focus entirely on the financial outcome.
So ask yourself right now, is your firm actually equipped to survive the end of the billable hour?
All right, let's dive into this explainer on the absolute ultimate creator cheat code, engineering high retention shorts. Look, shorts grab over 70 billion views every single day. It's literally the ultimate discovery engine. So why are people just scrolling past you? Honestly, you're probably losing them in a split second. The fix? The Sticky 5 framework. Let's break down this exact blueprint right now. Step 1 is the hook. That critical very first second has got to instantly spark curiosity, right? Enter the triple hook method. Your visuals, text, and voiceover, they need to align perfectly. Why? Because our brains process visual hooks way faster than we hear audio. Once they're hooked, we hit phase 2. You absolutely need the strict 3-second rule here. You've got to aggressively change up those visual angles every 2 to 3 seconds. Constantly cut to B-roll footage, okay? This totally stops the audience from zoning out. Pop in quick text callouts too. It keeps the pacing relentlessly fast and locks in attention. Next up, the progress principle. Ruthlessly cut the fluff so your story is constantly moving forward. Every single second has to justify its existence. Seriously, ditch all the pauses and filler. Phase 3 is the climax. Now you've got to strictly apply the payoff principle. Give them the exact value you promised. Hit them with an aha moment or punchline. Which brings us to the craziest, most counterintuitive rule of all. Quit while you're ahead. Seriously, don't linger. Even 2 seconds of fluff at the end completely wrecks your retention graph. So the absolute key is ending the whole thing immediately after that final payoff. Ready to engineer viral retention? Are you brave enough to cut the fluff and just stop?
Welcome to this explainer. Forget simple bank loans. We're diving into the wild world of structured finance today.
So how do massive corporations actually afford billion-dollar takeovers? Well, it's almost never just cash in a vault. It all starts with synergy. That's the financial magic trick where two merged companies are somehow worth more.
To buy that sweet synergy, companies usually just paid cash, swapped shares, or used basic loan notes.
But structured finance changed the game. Unlike traditional bank loans that isolate risk, asset pooling spreads it everywhere.
Basically, instead of waiting to be repaid, lenders bundle up the debt, tranche the risk, and sell it. This wild securitization strategy kicked off with 1970s mortgages, eventually mutating into some seriously complex corporate funding.
Look at Enron. They mastered special purpose entities, using a three-step process to instantly turn paper into cash.
Seriously, through their infamous Cactus Fund, Enron managed to pool and hide a whopping $900 million. But hey, financial alchemy has its limits, right? The SEC ended up charging Enron's lawyers for massive fraud.
Their fatal flaw? Secret side agreements. The actual risk was literally never transferred off of Enron's books.
By 2008, this structural complexity blew up. Banks were heavily using credit default swaps to insure toxic mortgages. Once those underlying assets tanked, systemic risk became brutally real. It spread just like a highly contagious disease.
Because everything was so interconnected, even the safest global companies suddenly found their funding lines completely frozen solid. Fast forward to today. Wall Street is desperately trying to solve these liquidity nightmares using digital blockchain tokenization. Big players like JP Morgan are actively turning clunky traditional assets into super agile digital tokens. Why? Because tokenized collateral moves in seconds, drastically cutting down the friction of global risk transfer.
So here's the real question. As assets go digital, did we finally master systemic risk or just reinvent it?
All right, let's decode the ultimate blueprint for building a massive, faceless finance empire on YouTube. Think you need a super charismatic, on-camera personality to pull this off? You absolutely don't.
Seriously, compare the total burnout of traditional talking head videos to this highly scalable, totally anonymous model.
The math here is literally staggering. We're talking up to $22 per 1,000 views.
Why so high?
Well, advertisers pay a massive premium for finance compared to standard gaming channels.
So, targeting specific sub-niches like credit cards or building wealth is basically a highly profitable, math-based hustle.
This means a finance channel with just 50,000 views can crush a massive entertainment channel's earnings.
Big players pull millions of views using just crisp voiceovers, stock footage, and some seriously deep research. So how exactly do you capture attention without showing your face? You engineer retention from second one.
You've got to master the triple hook. Hit their visual, written, and verbal senses simultaneously in 3 seconds.
It all starts with the visual hook. A sudden pattern interrupt triggers the brain before you even speak.
Then apply this framework. Keep the pace super fast, show constant progress, and always deliver a payoff. Then apply this framework. Keep the pace super fast, show constant progress, and always deliver a payoff.
Whatever you do, never linger. You literally have to change visuals constantly to maintain the audience's focus. Look, ideas die without clicks. Your thumbnails need one clear promise, big text, and striking visual elements. Top creators completely avoid clutter. They use clean backgrounds and a single emotional hook to grab attention instantly.
Ditch the boring lectures. Try proven formats like busting financial myths or breaking down a paycheck game plan.
While shorts drive quick growth, definitely aim for 8-minute long-form videos to multiply your revenue with mid-roll ads.
Commit to publishing consistently for 90 days. You've got to train the algorithm to find that high-value audience.
The blueprint is proven, guys, so are you ready to start building your own faceless finance empire today?
Welcome to This Explainer. Let's dive into the massive paradigm shift reshaping deal-making and fundraising by 2026. Ask yourself, are you just reporting old numbers, or are you actively driving the fundraising strategy? Section 1, the 2026 Finance Shift. We're seeing a massive jump straight to the forefront of deal-making. For book-running lead managers, manual spreadsheets are totally out. AI automation and strategic partnering are in. Crazy enough, many finance pros still waste a staggering 75% of their time just collecting data. Section 2, AI as a strategic enabler. AI isn't a threat, guys. It handles those brutal manual workloads. Section 3, mastering big data. AI is absolutely essential for processing the massive data dumps during due diligence. Modern analytics come down to 4 V's: volume, velocity, variety, and veracity. AI helps you master them all. But hey, here's the catch. Lead managers face a major hidden career risk you absolutely must avoid. It's called ghost work, doing invisible manual labor behind AI or faking productivity instead of adding real value. Section 4, the art of storytelling. To escape ghost work in fundraising, your ultimate advantage is narrative. Bridging that raw finance data with a great story is what actually drives investor confidence during pitches. Remember this quote: a valuation model is literally just a calculator until you wrap a story around it. Section 5, the bluff technique. Storytelling coaches swear by this actionable communication tactic for high-stakes pitching. Bluff stands for bottom line up front. Always give your main insight first to those time-pressed investors. Section 6, becoming a strategic partner. Mastering this shifts you from a basic number cruncher to true deal lead. The modern workflow is super fast. Source your data, run AI analysis, craft the narrative, and drive decisions. Like Andrew Harding says, we're uniquely positioned to step up and become true strategic business partners. So, will you let AI replace you, or will you use it to tell investors a better story? Future-proof your BRLM career today. Download our finance notes below to master this stuff. Catch you next time. Welcome to This Explainer. Let's dive right into the rapidly growing AI skills gap hitting the finance world. So let's just ask the elephant in the room. Is AI actually taking over your finance job? The blunt truth? Yeah, it absolutely is, and it's happening incredibly fast. We are entering Finance 2.0. The baseline has totally shifted from clunky manual spreadsheets to AI-driven workflows. Get this. New Data Rails research shows that 1 in 3 finance jobs now explicitly requires AI skills. And that demand is surging like crazy. It's a massive jump from just 1 in 4 just last year. Even traditional operational roles are totally shifting. Accountant job postings requiring AI, they've surged 67%. But here is the crazy part. 84% of companies haven't even redesigned roles to match this shift yet. This creates a super dangerous gap between what employers expect and your actual day-to-day preparation. Picture this. You're sitting in your annual performance review, heart totally pounding in your chest. Your manager looks right at you and asks, "How are you leveraging machine learning for the month-end close?" And you have absolutely zero answer for them. Just pure awkward silence. See, AI isn't just replacing roles. It's compressing time, handling the whole first draft of your finance work. So how do you survive this? Upskilling right now gives you a massive, undeniable competitive edge. Here's your action plan. Research one AI Excel tool today and test it out on your next reconciliation. The future of finance belongs to those who adapt. So what are you going to automate first?
Let's dive in. For a ton of Gen Z, traditional wealth building just feels like a total scam.
I mean, when inflation eats your paycheck and housing's out of reach, slow and steady feels like a joke.
Seriously, ask yourself, does conventional financial advice feel less like a roadmap and way more like a trap?
Well, here's why. Younger investors are literally crushed by an average debt load of 94 grand. That fuels financial nihilism. People are ditching dreams of homeownership to chase fast payouts on prediction markets.
The crazy part? 80% are taking these high-risk bets simply because they feel totally left behind.
You know the vibe, scrolling TikTok in your overpriced apartment, betting on pop culture drama for a quick payout.
Since your savings account pays literal pennies, these dopamine-fueled prediction markets offer a super tantalizing high-speed rush.
Seeing absurd meme coins skyrocket creates this dangerous illusion that just being extremely online equals real market insight.
But here is the harsh truth, guys. Platform data shows most users actually lose everything on these wild gambles.
Look, fast ruin is exciting, but destroys wealth. Slow wealth is painfully boring, but hey, it actually works. Because real investing is a quantifiable science, not a social media gamble. It blends human insight with data. Yeah, conventional investing feels agonizingly slow, but diversified index funds deliver those compounding results that actually build wealth.
So, here's your game plan. Go automate a $50 index fund contribution today, before you gamble it away.
The choice is yours. Will you automate your wealth today or bet your future on some internet trend?
Let's dive into This Explainer. Did you know financial apps are secretly treating your money like a video game? It's crazy, but the line between serious investing and mindless entertainment, yeah, it's pretty much gone. We're literally in an era of emotional finance. Quick dopamine hits are dictating your everyday financial habits. And wow, is it profitable. The wealth tech industry should hit $12.07 billion by 2030. This massive growth relies on integrating gaming and social media mechanics. It absolutely skyrockets their customer engagement. They use reward points, digital badges, and daily challenges. This fundamentally changes how you interact with your finances. Hidden algorithms exploit our desire for fast outcomes, right? They turn serious investing into impulsive, gamified reactions. They even create this illusion that doom-scrolling social media hype is somehow actual fundamental market research. So, picture this. You log into your budgeting app, just intending to quickly check your balance. But a progress bar shows you're $50 away from a Super Saver badge. You instantly transfer funds. See what happened? The app's gamified design completely hijacked your logical behavior to complete a challenge. We have to recognize the stark difference here. Gamified reactions are totally different from logical trading strategies. Recognize this manipulation. Turn off push notifications for your investment apps today. Take back control of your habits. Make trades based on logic, not chasing digital rewards. Ask yourself, who is really winning the game here? Let's jump into this explainer on the massive culture-shifting change in exactly how we search today. Think about it for a second. Where do you naturally go to find answers right now? Crazy, right? Over half of Gen Z completely bypasses Google, searching directly on TikTok and YouTube instead. Younger folks are just totally dishing traditional TV. They're trading it in for user-generated social content. It's a huge shift. We're swapping out old, text-heavy links for rich, real-world visual context. Because of this, we're officially moving way beyond generic SEO into answer engine optimization. See, trust today comes from real-time, authentic, recent content, not those highly polished corporate statements. People literally demand real visual answers and raw, honest reviews before they make any decisions. So this brand new behavior completely rewrites the modern three-step video marketing funnel. First up, short videos on apps like TikTok act as your absolute ultimate discovery engines. But to win that algorithm, you've got to hook your viewer in the very first half second. Then, once you're discovered, mid to long-form video steps in to build deep, lasting credibility. Finally, social commerce and in-app shopping totally transform that hard-earned trust into immediate sales. Surprisingly, real, kind of messy walkthroughs are now drastically outperforming highly polished, airbrushed ads. Okay, so here is your rapid-fire, actionable playbook for totally dominating social SEO this year. First off, seamlessly fit your search terms directly into your spoken hooks and on-screen text. Believe it or not, typos and stutters actually signal pure authenticity to a super skeptical audience. Next, shift your focus completely away from the masses and toward engaged micro-communities like on Discord. High-volume generic content is officially dead. Today, hyper-relevance and behavioral impact are literally everything. So ask yourself, if your brand only exists as polished digital noise, are you already invisible? Okay, let's dive right into the jarring reality that's fundamentally rewriting digital marketing in 2026. I'm going to be totally direct with you. Your traditional SEO keyword strategy is officially useless. Why? Well, publishers are bracing for a massive 43% drop in traditional search traffic. Because as the IAB points out, humans are becoming wildly outnumbered by AI agents online. Literally, a staggering 2/3 of all global internet traffic will soon be driven by bots. Consumer search behavior has fundamentally shifted from simple fact-finding to dynamic exploration through conversational AI. This huge shift makes generative engine optimization, or GEO, your absolute new standard for visibility. You've got to start treating these AI models as the primary gatekeepers for your brand. Picture this. You spend thousands bidding on one narrow keyword for a single ad campaign. Meanwhile, your smart competitor just supplies AI with rich, high-quality assets that adapt perfectly. The whole takeaway here, your brand's visibility now totally depends on being cited and summarized. So stop optimizing for exact match keywords right now. Audit your commercial pages for AI extraction. You need a super clean structure with clear definitions and direct answers that bots love. To actually win in this new era, you got to construct a robust, interconnected topic stack. Make sure this content is highly structured, authoritative, and people first, so AI easily extracts it. We've spent billions learning to persuade humans, but is your brand ready to persuade AI? Your best people, they're probably bored. Let's dive into a crazy HR explainer to fix exactly that. Look at 2026 trends like job hugging and quiet cracking. The harsh truth? Your top talent is totally stagnant. So the crucial point here, upward mobility isn't your only retention tool anymore. There is absolutely another way. Enter the internal gig economy. Cangrade highlights this massive trend, building new skills without leaving their current roles. External side hustles, they totally divide loyalty, but internal gigs, they actually drive retention and real cross-functional growth. Okay, so how does this actually work in the real world? Let's look at a super relatable example. Imagine a bored senior designer. Now, they spend 20% of their week advising product teams on new initiatives. See how that works? The core day job and the internal gig safely harmonize, bringing renewed engagement, zero burnout. You can take immediate action. Try piloting a small internal gig program this month using these 3 simple steps. Use these actionable strategies from Cangrade, like dynamic matching, to ensure your pilot is both measurable and scalable. This HR Trends report challenges us all to embrace agility. Will you lead through these changes or be led?
Are you measuring your investment returns completely wrong? Well, let's figure that out right now.
See, relying on a simple profit percentage is a total trap. It completely ignores timing.
You boast 50% profit over 10 years. Your rival gets 20% in 6 months and crushes you.
So how did they win? The time value of money is the missing link here. Basically, money today is worth way more. Inflation, risk, and opportunity cost constantly eat away at future value.
To compare things fairly, we literally have to discount those future cash flows back to their present value.
The catch? You must calculate the internal rate of return. That's the discount rate making net present value 0.
At this exact percentage, the present value of your cash inflows perfectly zeroes out your initial outflows.
Finding that magic rate requires interpolation. We test positive and negative net present values to pinpoint the balance.
The golden rule here, always accept a project if its IRR beats your company's hurdle rate.
And this mathematically proves why your rival's rapid 20% return completely beat your drawn-out 50%.
Managers absolutely love IRR because it accounts for time, and it gives you a super simple, digestible percentage.
But watch out for the traps. It assumes unrealistic reinvestment rates and creates multiple answers for weird cash flows.
When projects conflict in scale or timing, net present value is actually superior for maximizing shareholder wealth. So if they ever conflict, just calculate both metrics. But honestly, always trust net present value.
Quick tip for finance students. Always show your interpolation workings on exams to grab those sweet method marks.
Want to master this stuff? Make sure to grab my finance notes to easily pass your exams.
So are you ready to calculate your true return and completely crush the competition? Let's go.
Let's dive into this explainer on a wildly surprising 2026 workplace trend, the job cuffing illusion. So your team is suddenly working incredibly hard. Awesome, right? Actually, it might be a massive red flag. It's an illusion. What looks like super high engagement is actually just driven entirely by fear. Welcome to job cuffing. It's a 2026 trend where workers literally cling to roles out of pure economic anxiety. It's totally linked to job hugging, where fear of hiring freezes keeps people completely paralyzed in place. These heavy economic drivers have one very direct consequence. They're actively pushing employee quit rates way down. In fact, voluntary quit rates have absolutely plummeted, hitting their lowest point since way back in 2016. The crucial takeaway? Your people are overcommitting as a defensive mechanism, definitely not out of passion. Imagine this. An employee suddenly volunteers to lead 3 entirely new committees out of nowhere. You naturally praise them, right? You love this sudden burst of seemingly engaged leadership and incredible initiative. But you're completely unaware that they're exhausting themselves just to look completely indispensable. They aren't truly engaged at all. They're terrified of losing their livelihood and heading for severe burnout. As leaders, we absolutely cannot exploit this intense economic anxiety for short-term productivity gains. Instead, the goal is shifting your team away from fear-based compliance back to genuine, sustainable loyalty. So here's the game plan. Acknowledge the anxiety, don't exploit it, and have an honest conversation this week. Talk to your top performers about their actual career goals. Build trust and relieve that immense pressure. I'll leave you with this final thought. Are your top performers truly loyal, or are they just terrified?
Hey everyone, welcome back to The Explainer. Today, we are jumping right into a massive paradigm shift that is completely rewriting the rules of digital media and marketing for 2026. If you've been feeling like your audience engagement is just kind of slipping lately, or that the old ways of publishing aren't hitting the way they used to, well, you're definitely not alone. The digital landscape has basically evolved right beneath our feet, and today we're going to unpack exactly what that means for you.
Okay, let's dive right into this, because this is the disruptive hook we all really need to wake up to. The traditional one-size-fits-all static article, it's officially dead in 2026. Seriously, for years, the model was so simple. You write a great piece of content, put it on a URL, and just send everyone to look at that exact same page. But consumer behavior has been fundamentally reshaped by AI. People just don't want to dig through a generic fixed page to find the specific info they need anymore. The broadcast era, it's over.
And look, you don't just have to take my word for it. Look at this powerful quote straight from the latest Reuters Institute data. Gard Styro, who is the editor-in-chief at VG, that's Norway's best-selling tabloid, he flatly stated, "The article as we know it is gone." Major media institutions are literally entirely rethinking their products and retooling how they produce things. They've realized that forcing every single user to consume the exact same arrangement of text and images is just, well, it's an outdated user experience.
So, that brings us to the paradigm shift. Enter liquid content. So, if the static article is dead, what's replacing it? Well, here is how we define this new standard. Liquid content refers to stories that dynamically adapt in real time based on a viewer's exact location, their context, and their preferences. And the whole thing is entirely powered by agentic AI. I want you to think of your content no longer as a single rigid document, but honestly more like a flexible collection of atomic objects. The AI essentially acts as this invisible engine, assembling these little objects on the fly to create the perfect personalized narrative for whoever happens to be looking at it at that exact second.
And this brilliantly illustrates liquid content actually working in action across a bunch of different mediums today. For text, over on the news site Scroll in India, readers literally use a sliding bar at the top of a story to dial the level of context up or down depending on what they want. Over in Norway, VG uses AI to generate a custom summary of events that happened specifically since your last visit. In video, Amazon's AI recaps dynamically summarize whole seasons but specifically tailored for binge watchers. And for audio, platforms like Hooks use agentic AI to build custom on-demand audio briefings based entirely on your specific emails and interests. The format is actively changing based on the user.
Let's shift gears a bit and look at the real-world stakes here, specifically the newsletter dilemma.
Let's bring this concept down to a granular, relatable, competitive scenario. Consider the stark contrast here. On the left side, we have the old way, right? You write a generic newsletter and you broadcast 10,000 identical emails to your entire subscriber list. But look at the liquid approach on the right. Your competitor is using an AI that generates 10,000 uniquely tailored versions of that exact same update. It's tweaking the examples, the tone, and the context based on each individual subscriber's exact industry and current buying stage. Like ad leader Leanne Leahy pointed out in our source data, AI is turning mass marketing into mass one-to-one. If you're out there competing against that level of hyper-personalization with just a generic email blast, you're going to lose their attention.
But wait, we need to talk about the AI efficiency trap and the very real danger of sameness at scale.
Because here is where we need to be incredibly careful. Just because you have AI doesn't mean you should simply churn out infinite amounts of content. Now, what's really interesting about this data is the trust gap. Currently, 52% of users are actively wary of AI content that lacks clear disclosure. Audiences are experiencing what we call perfection fatigue. You know the feeling, right? They're exhausted by that polished, hollow, synthetic-sounding copy. They are actually starving for something tactile, a little messy, and entirely honest. If your personalized liquid content feels like it was written by a lifeless bot, it's just going to absolutely destroy your credibility.
Executive Creative Director Maria D'Amato frames this perfectly. She says, if your guidelines can't instruct AI on how to be distinct and memorable, you'll get sameness at scale. And guys, this is the ultimate danger of 2026. Anyone can use a language model to generate a personalized email. But if that email lacks your unique brand voice, your specific expert opinions, and real human emotion, well, it's just more clutter.
So, it's time to stop broadcasting and start personalizing. Let's look at implementation in 2026.
Let's move to this and see how this builds into a concrete action plan that you can literally start using today. Step 1. You really have to make the mental shift to stop broadcasting identical, static messages. Step 2. Start exploring AI-driven dynamic content blocks in your existing platforms right now. Most major email and web providers already have these built in. Step 3. Begin by personalizing your communications for just a few different audience segments before you try scaling all the way up to one-to-one. And finally, Step 4, and this is arguably the most important piece, implement the human-in-the-loop model.
So, the crucial point is understanding exactly what this human-in-the-loop strategy actually looks like. Because while AI powers the massive scale of liquid content, human authenticity is what actually builds the trust. You want to use AI to automate the routine data gathering and the actual scaling of the message, but humans absolutely must retain control over the creative decisions and the emotional expression. We really have to focus on what Adobe calls connectioneering. That means sharing everyday rituals, real-life stories, and those nuanced experiences that spark actual community participation. You even want to intentionally inject what we call human glitches. You know, those natural imperfections and behind-the-scenes realities that prove a real living person is behind the grant. Just remember, AI is the assistant, humans are the authors.
We've covered a massive shift today, moving from the death of the static article to the rise of personalized, liquid content driven by these human-in-the-loop strategies. But I want to leave you with this one heavy thought to reflect on as you look at your own publishing strategy today. Ask yourself honestly, is your content adapting to the viewer in real time, or is it already obsolete? Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. I really hope it sparks some great ideas for you.
All right, let's look at why Gen Z is suddenly logging off and completely wrecking digital marketing strategies.
You're blowing your whole ad budget on social media, but where did your audience actually go?
Crazy, right? Gen Z is actively throwing away their smartphones and buying basic dumb phones instead.
Welcome to abstinence. Young people are intentionally abandoning algorithmic feeds to escape those toxic attention loops.
The root cause here? Massive screen fatigue. They're just completely exhausted by algorithms and constant overstimulation.
They proudly call themselves Luddites, echoing those 19th century workers who literally smashed disruptive machines.
Actually, some venues are even confiscating phones at the door so people can stay in the moment. So this creates a pretty painful irony for modern brands trying to reach this exact demographic.
You spend your entire ad budget on TikTok, but your demographic logged off for screen-free meetups.
They've retreated to private group chats and physical micro-communities because they're really craving real human friction.
Listen, if you just treat them like passive digital consumers, your brand is going to become completely invisible.
So here's your action plan. Plan one small, in real-life, local community event today to truly connect.
Stop chasing algorithms and build a real community. If the internet died tomorrow, would anyone even care?
Get ready, because the rules of work have fundamentally changed. The 2026 workplace is going to look totally different. Here's the thing. Artificial intelligence is officially becoming a formal member of your team. It's the new reality. We're entering the era of human agent teams. You're not just an employee anymore. You're an agent boss. It's all driven by agentic AI. This stuff doesn't just assist you. It actually acts totally independently. That's a massive shift, right? We're moving from rigid automation straight to full context-aware autonomy. Welcome to the Silicon workforce. AI literally sits right alongside humans on your org chart now. For the very first time, you can radically expand operational capabilities without adding any headcount whatsoever. So how does this actually play out? Well, let's look at a pretty common competitive scenario. Imagine you're struggling to hire 5 new analysts. Meanwhile, your competitor makes a completely different, lightning-fast move. They promote just one single junior coordinator to oversee a dedicated team of autonomous AI agents. The crazy part? They get the exact same output. 0 hiring delays, 0 onboarding bottlenecks. Which brings us to a really vital question for you. Is your leadership team actually ready for this? You absolutely must update your leadership training today with specific strategies for managing collaborative human AI teams. Building this resilient strategy means assessing readiness, defining those new roles, and upskilling your workforce right now. HR has to step up, establish clear governance, keep human oversight, and measure real outcomes instead of inputs. You gotta teach AI fluency so your staff can confidently manage their new digital coworkers. This governance prevents low-quality work slop and ensures your human agent teams drive real, measurable value.
So, I'll leave you with this final thought. Will you manage the AI or will it replace you?
Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're tackling market manias and how to protect your downside. So, buying popular, hyped-up stocks at their absolute peak? Listen, praying they never drop is a completely bad strategy.
You buy a tech stock at fair value and lose half your money when earnings miss slightly.
We saw these exact hype-driven loops with 17th century tulips and the massive dot-com bubble.
And guess what? Even billionaires and investing legends get completely burned.
Warren Buffett literally admitted he paid way too much for a company called Precision Castparts.
Unforeseen events like the pandemic crushed demand. He totally misjudged probabilities without a safety buffer.
But here's the catch. How do everyday investors protect against these unpredictable downsides?
It all relies on a powerful financial concept known as the margin of safety.
Mathematically, this formula calculates exactly how far sales can drop before you hit a loss. Translate that to your investments. You need a margin of safety to protect your downside.
So how do we actually build this protective barrier into our personal portfolios?
While Buffett keeps roughly 10 to 15% of his total assets in pure cash.
That cash exists simply to avoid catastrophic ruin or getting caught in a pickle.
Then there's diversification. Spreading your money across different asset classes massively lowers your risk. It ensures you won't lose everything if one popular, hyped-up asset suddenly tanks. Choose math over mania. Cash and diversification are how you survive brutal reality checks.
Does your portfolio have enough buffer? Grab my finance notes to pass the ultimate test.
Welcome to this explainer on mastering the ad hoc request. It's literally corporate finance's most panic-inducing moment. So let's kick off with a totally contrarian rule. Never say yes to the CEO immediately. Why? Because rushing a quick and dirty report that drives massive decisions is a fast track to absolute disaster. Treating complex strategic models like disposable one-off tasks is incredibly dangerous. Seriously, we gotta stop doing this. Without FP&A automation, analysts spend 75% of their time just collecting data. Instant turnarounds? Literally impossible. Ever rushed a request that unexpectedly drove the whole business strategy? Yeah, that's a recipe for panic attacks. Picture this nightmare. It's Friday afternoon, and boom, your boss demands an urgent budget bridge. So how do you survive this high-stakes demand with missing data and a ticking clock? You need strict boundaries. Acknowledge the request, clarify the trade-offs, and propose a realistic timeline. Deliver pushback using the 1-3-1 method. 1 clear question, 3 viable options, and 1 specific recommendation. Grab this exact email template to strategically pause the request and present realistic delivery options. The trick here is using confident, direct language. This guides leadership toward realistic expectations focused on accuracy. Mastering this completely transforms you. You go from a reactive order taker, right, to a strategic advisor. Before answering that next urgent email, ask yourself, will a rushed yes build your credibility or destroy it? Welcome to today's explainer. Let's dive into the massive strategy shift coming in 2026. Here's the hook. Broadcasting your message to millions of followers, that's a massive waste of money. We're breaking this down using the HEIT framework. Hook, explain, illustrate, and teach. Let's go. So, to explain, the 2026 golden rule is simple. Depth totally beats scale. Basically, the era of peak social is over. We're moving way past those huge passive audiences. Instead, everyone's retreating to private micro-communities on places like Discord and Slack for genuine connection. Because honestly, 99% of a massive audience is just passively scrolling. They don't convert. Let's illustrate this. Imagine dropping 10 grand just trying to go viral for a second. You buy a fleeting TikTok hit, while a competitor's Slack of 500 loyal fans buys everything. This forces you to look at your audience in 3 very distinct, crucial layers. See, a massive follower count is literally useless if they're just casual orbiters or passing strangers. Deeper, niche connections absolutely crush broad reach when it comes to actual business ROI. Time to teach. The big takeaway? Stop chasing those empty follower metrics right now. Set up a private community hub today to foster genuine two-way chats with loyal customers. Nourish that space, host events, and actually encourage members to talk to each other. In 2026, the winners become true community leaders. They're leaving basic entertainment in the dust. The megaphone era is officially over. So tell me, where will your loyal fans gather? Welcome to This Explainer. We've got a fascinating journey ahead of us today, diving straight into the nervous system of modern business. We're going to start with the hard, granular data of modern finance, pivot into the messy, unpredictable psychology of human behavior, and finally zoom way out to the macro world of global sustainability. So let's jump right in. Here is our roadmap. 1. Data and customer profitability. 2. Managing quality and projects. 3. Behavioral traps in performance. 4. The beyond budgeting solution. And 5. ESG and sustainable value. Section 1. Data and customer profitability. Let's start with the absolute foundation, the raw metrics. Now, we hear the term big data constantly, right? But in advanced performance management, it's actually strictly defined by the 4 V's. Volume, meaning just massive amounts of information. Velocity, the lightning-fast, real-time generation of that data. Variety, which is your mix of structured databases and unstructured stuff like text or video. And finally, veracity, which is all about data quality and uncertainty. Actually, that last one is absolutely crucial. Big data isn't just a whole bunch of numbers. When you manage it with these 4 V's, it becomes the engine powering everything from your real-time dashboards to the predictive analytics that tell you if a customer is about to churn. And we put that data to work directly through customer profitability analysis, or CPA. Let's compare 2 scenarios. On paper, customer B brings in a very healthy £80,000 in revenue. Traditional accounting often stops right there and celebrates. But with CPA, we track the granular, customer-specific costs. It turns out, customer B demands huge order processing, support, and delivery resources. When we subtract all of that, that 80 grand revenue actually turns into a £3,000 loss. No way, right? It just perfectly illustrates why revenue alone is a super dangerous metric. You could literally be financing your own losses if you aren't tracking the true costs of serving your clients. Section 2, Managing Quality and Projects. Now that we know who our profitable customers actually are, let's look internally at our delivery. This brings us to the cost of quality framework. What's really cool here is thinking about it as a timeline of financial risk moving from left to right. On the far left, you start with prevention, training your team, reviewing product designs. Next comes appraisal, which is inspecting the actual goods. Now, if you fail there, you hit internal failure. Think factory rework or scrap. Annoying, but manageable. But the absolute worst-case scenario is on the far right, external failure. This is the nightmare where a defective product reaches the customer. We're talking warranty claims, massive lawsuits, and irreversible reputation damage. The big takeaway, spending a little on the left side of this timeline prevents absolute catastrophes on the right. So prevention is key. But what happens when we're executing complex, one-off internal projects? How can we be absolutely certain we are succeeding in hitting quality markers and not just throwing cash into a black hole? Well, we find the answer in Earned Value Management, or EVM. It's a total game changer because it combines time, cost, and scope into one unified picture. We track planned value, what we expected to do, against earned value, which is the actual quantifiable work we've completed. Then we measure that against the actual cost. But the real magic happens with 2 specific indexes, the Cost Performance Index, or CPI, and the Schedule Performance Index, SPI. If either of these numbers dips below 1.0, the data is basically screaming at you that your project is bleeding money or falling hopelessly behind schedule. It strips all the guesswork right out of the equation. Section 3, Behavioral Traps in Performance. This is where we make our psychological pivot. Because here's the thing, all those perfect, mathematically sound metrics we just talked about, they are completely useless if they drive the wrong human behavior. It all starts with a golden rule called the controllability principle. Basically, managers should only be evaluated on costs and revenues they can actually influence. Imagine you're running a highly efficient division hitting all your targets, but your year-end bonus vanishes because corporate head office allocated some massive, uncontrollable rent expense to your profit and loss statement. Unfair, right? If you evaluate people on central costs they can't control, you destroy their motivation in an instant. And when that controllability principle gets ignored, or when targets are just way too rigid, people fall into behavioral traps. For instance, you get gaming, where staff might delay vital expenses just to artificially inflate their numbers and hit a bonus. Then there's short-termism, a literal business killer, where managers slash essential R&D or equipment maintenance just to boost this quarter's profit, sacrificing the company's long-term future. Oh, and budgetary slack, where managers purposely overestimate their costs up front just so their budgets are a breeze to hit later. It's wild, but a poorly designed metric doesn't just fail to measure performance, it actively encourages this kind of dysfunction.
Section 4. The Beyond Budgeting Solution. So how do we fix this? If traditional budgeting causes all this rampant dysfunction in gaming, what's the modern cure? It's a paradigm shift known as beyond budgeting. Traditional budgeting relies on fixed, top-down annual targets. It forces managers into a rigid contract made months in advance, totally disconnected from real-time market reality. Beyond budgeting says, let's throw out the fixed annual budget completely. Instead, it uses continuous rolling forecasts, adaptive KPIs, and decentralized resource allocation based on actual immediate needs. It's built to adapt to change and reward agility, instead of punishing someone because they couldn't predict the future 12 months in advance.
Section 5, ESG and sustainable value. Finally, let's zoom way out to the macro level. Because modern performance isn't just about internal spreadsheets anymore, it's about global, sustainable value. Historically, maybe 50% of firms used environmental, social, and governance standards. It was kind of seen as a niche PR exercise. But today, that adoption rate has skyrocketed to 92%. ESG has gone from a peripheral side project straight to a core board-level strategy. Investors, regulators, consumers, they are all demanding verifiable sustainability metrics. It's the new baseline for corporate survival. And we have to measure it accurately. ESG ties right into long-term profitability by tracking very specific things. Environmentally, we're talking strict measurements of Scope 1, 2, and 3 carbon emissions and resource usage. Social metrics dive into health, safety, and community impact. Governance looks at the actual integrity of the firm, things like board diversity, ethics violations, and how robust the whistleblower channels are. A failure in any of these 3 pillars is now viewed by the market as a massive financial risk.
And we can actually connect this right back to our very first topic, big data. Think about the estimated operational expenses for a 100-megawatt data center. The electricity cost alone is staggering, running anywhere from $41 to over $130 million every single year. As big data and artificial intelligence demand absolutely explodes, these data centers are eating monumental amounts of power. Because of that, getting access to low-cost, renewable energy isn't just an environmental nice-to-have anymore, it's a critical, bottom-line financial strategy you need just to sustain the AI boom. Data, finance, and ESG are all completely intertwined now.
Which leaves us with one final thought. As you reflect on everything we've explored today, how big data drives true profitability, how rigid targets trigger all that dysfunctional human behavior, and how global sustainability is literally reshaping what success looks like, ask yourself this. Are the performance metrics you rely on actually building a resilient, sustainable future, or are they just giving you a comfortable illusion of control while you track the past? Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and remember to always keep questioning the numbers. Welcome to this explainer. Okay, so you know the feeling. You hit every single financial target on your spreadsheet, the variance report is glowing beautifully green, but somehow the company is still losing market share. If you've ever felt like traditional corporate reporting is basically like driving a car while only looking in the rearview mirror, well, you are absolutely in the right place. Today, we're taking those dense textbook performance management concepts and transforming them into a dynamic, incredibly practical strategic toolkit. We're moving way beyond basic variance analysis to look at what actually drives value in a modern, complex business environment.
All right, let's take a quick look at our roadmap for today. We're going to cover the human element, agility beyond budgeting, tracking true value, the big data advantage, and we'll wrap up with the ESG imperative. Let's dive right in.
Starting off with Section 1, the human element, and specifically, managing behavioral aspects. Because at the end of the day, performance management is fundamentally people management. So I want to kick things off with a slightly provocative question. Why on earth do good budgets cause bad behavior? We usually just assume that if we set a financial target, especially one of those rigid top-down targets from upper management, that a bunch of rational professionals will just put their heads down and march straight toward it. But the reality of human behavior in a corporate setting is, well, it's messy. How a target is set entirely changes the human reaction. Sometimes the very systems we design to measure success end up incentivizing the exact opposite. Now, what's really interesting is looking at the symptoms of this. When we rely on unrealistic targets and purely financial measures, we trigger some serious organizational dysfunction. We see gaming, like when a sales team magically closes 50 deals on December 31st, just to hit a year-end bonus, completely cannibalizing next quarter's revenue. We see smoothing to artificially hide volatility. We see incredibly dangerous short-termism, where vital long-term investments like R&D, employee training, or even essential machine maintenance are slashed just to boost a quick profit. And of course, budgetary slack, where managers deliberately overestimate their costs just to make their targets a total breeze to hit. Listen, these aren't accidents. They are direct behavioral responses to poorly designed measurement systems. Which brings us to this golden rule. Budgeting influences behavior. So designed to motivate, not manipulate. The ultimate goal here isn't just to hit a numerical target on a spreadsheet. It's to drive actual strategic success. If your system is making your managers hide capacity or cut essential maintenance, the system is failing, period, regardless of what that final profit number says. Moving right along to Section 2, Agility Beyond Budgeting. It is time to leave the rigid past behind. Think of traditional budgeting as an anchor. It's totally static. It relies on fixed annual budgets, strict hierarchies, and rigid variance analysis. It's basically a contract that locks a business into a set path, no matter how much the market shifts beneath them. In stark contrast, the Beyond Budgeting framework is much more like a sailboat, catching the wind of real-time market changes. It entirely abandons the fixed annual budget. Instead, we're talking rolling forecasts and dynamic KPIs, allocating resources adaptively based on actual, real-time need, rather than some wild guess someone made 12 months ago. It decentralizes power and completely disrupts that rigid culture that breeds all the budgetary slack we were just talking about. Okay, Section 3, Tracking True Value. This is where we get into EVM and the cost of quality. We have all been there, right? A project manager confidently claims they're 90% done for, 90% of the timeline, only for the project to somehow drag on for another 6 months. To avoid that trap, we use Earned Value Management, or EVM. It rests on 3 core metrics. First, PV, or planned value. This is simply what the work should have cost according to your baseline. Second, EV, or earned value. This is what the actual work you've completed is objectively worth. And third, AC, or actual cost. This is what you actually literally spent out of pocket to get that work done. So here's the math, and it gives us brutal objectivity. Cost variance, or CV, is your earned value minus your actual cost. This tracks your budget efficiency. Are you getting more value than you're spending? Schedule variance, or SV, is your earned value minus your planned value. This tracks your time efficiency. Are you getting more work done than you planned for this specific point in time? No more guessing games, no more vague percentages, just pure, undeniable metrics. But hey, alongside tracking project value, we also have to track production quality. Let's walk through the chronological steps of the cost of quality. It actually starts before production even begins with prevention, investing in training and design reviews. Then comes appraisal during production, so inspecting and testing. If we miss things there, we hit internal failure. That's rework, scrap, and downtime before the product ever ships. And if it actually ships defective, we hit the dreaded external failure. Think of a massive automotive recall or, a smartphone battery catching fire on an airplane. That is the devastating multi-million-dollar reality of external failure. The strategic takeaway here is so simple, but it gets ignored all the time. Investment in prevention reduces failure costs. It is vastly cheaper to design costs out early at the prevention stage than it is to fix defects after the product has shipped and your customer is absolutely furious. Quality is not just a post-production check for the factory floor, it's a boardroom-level pre-production strategy, which perfectly sets up Section 4, the big data advantage, fueling our modern toolkit. So, big data is defined by the 4 V's. We have volume, the sheer massive scale of the data. We have velocity, data being generated incredibly fast, often in real time. We have variety. It's not just structured financial spreadsheets anymore. It's unstructured text, video, sentiment analysis. But listen, the most absolutely crucial V for performance management is veracity. You can have all the volume and velocity in the world, but if the data quality is poor, your decisions are going to be fundamentally flawed. Actually, think about it. If your algorithm is feeding on bad data, you aren't just making a mistake. Thanks to velocity, you are making millions of mistakes per second. Big data is a game changer for decision-making, but strict data governance is absolutely non-negotiable. Let's look at how this applies to customer profitability analysis, or CPA. Big data lets us look way beyond top-line revenue. Take customer A.
They bring in a solid 100K in revenue. Sure, they have high product costs, but they are incredibly easy to serve, low order and delivery costs. They yield a healthy 20K profit. Now, consider customer B. 80K in revenue sounds pretty good, right? But big data reveals the hidden costs. They place multiple small orders, require heavy customer support, and demand incredibly complex deliveries. Once those specific service costs are factored in, customer B actually costs the company 3K. It's a real eye-opener. High revenue absolutely does not always equal high profit. And finally, Section 5, the ESG imperative. This is the ultimate modern mandate. The whole definition of performance has permanently widened. Long-term value creation now requires holistic, non-financial reporting that aligns profitability with environmental, social, and governance imperatives. I mean, artificial intelligence and big data are incredible tools, but they carry massive, hidden environmental costs. Just running the infrastructure for a 100-megawatt data center requires exorbitant electricity and huge operational expenditure. A modern performance management system simply cannot ignore this. We have to account for these environmental realities, measuring things like carbon emissions, energy consumption, and long-term sustainability right alongside our traditional financial metrics. So, I'm going to leave you with a question to take back to your own desk. Are your organization's performance measures truly aligned with long-term sustainable value creation? Or are you still just budgeting to hit a short-term number? Remember, what you measure is exactly what you are going to get. Design your systems to motivate the right behaviors, leverage your data intelligently, and account for your true long-term impact. Thanks for joining me on this explainer. Now go measure what actually matters.
Welcome to This Explainer. Let's explore how performance management is shifting from human behavior to global strategy.
Quick question. Are your company's rigid financial targets accidentally encouraging people to game the system?
That dysfunctional behavior happens when managers manipulate timing or slash crucial R&D just to hit those targets.
Padding budgets and hoarding resources totally destroys long-term value and operational efficiency. It's a real problem. So, the fix? Beyond budgeting. It completely abandons traditional, fixed annual budgets so you can adapt fast.
Instead of rigid rules, we use continuous rolling forecasts and KPIs. It seriously cuts down political maneuvering. Also, investing early in quality prevention, like training, completely avoids catastrophic and super expensive external failures later.
Here's a shocking truth we often find. Your highest revenue customers could actually be causing net losses. By deducting specific order and support costs from revenue, we see exactly who's destroying your margins.
To dynamically track project performance, earned value management compares planned value right against your actual costs. But how do we handle all this info? Big data brings massive volume, velocity, variety, and veracity. Predictive analytics turns finance teams from reactive historians into strategic partners who literally forecast the future. Connecting internal ERP data with external market signals makes your team a true value creation hub.
But wait, running all this big data and AI requires massive energy, tying tech directly to ESG. ESG is now core strategy. Organizations must measure their environmental impact, social diversity, and corporate governance.
Sustainable finance perfectly aligns our drive for profitability with vital environmental and social imperatives.
Facing 2026, we gotta ask, are you just reporting the numbers, or are you shaping the future?
Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're diving into a massive, hidden shift completely redefining the modern workforce.
Think your team is totally focused on your projects right now? Well, they probably aren't. Shockingly, almost half of your employees might be secretly working a second job right under your nose. It's called polyworking. Basically, it's the modern side hustle, and it's totally upending talent management in 2026. The data backs this up. A staggering 47% of workers are currently juggling multiple jobs at once. So why the explosion? Remote work, flexibility, and async schedules literally created the perfect breeding ground for this. But honestly, the biggest driver is financial pressure. Over half do this just to cover basic living costs. For leaders, this silent shift is a game changer. It impacts availability, fractures engagement, and skyrockets burnout risks. Let's illustrate this. Picture your super reliable lead designer suddenly missing some really critical project deadlines. You'd naturally assume, right, that they're just overwhelmed or maybe burning out from your current workload. But here's the hidden reality. They're actually juggling 3 other freelance clients during your core hours. So how do we handle this? how you manage this without totally shattering team trust and performance. You need to take action today, emphasize total transparency, and definitely set strict, outcome-based productivity goals. Shift those performance reviews entirely to the actual outcomes delivered. Forget about tracking the hours spent online. Also, proactively monitor those burnout risks. Use regular pulse surveys and have honest, direct check-ins with your team. Plus, you've got to benchmark your pay rates. Guarantee your top talent is being fairly compensated for their work. Want to keep them engaged? Offer internal stretch roles to satisfy that itch for building new skills. Ultimately, ask yourself, is your culture truly rewarding real outcomes or just the appearance of being busy?
Welcome to The Explainer. Let's talk about why you are likely wasting hundreds of precious study hours.
Okay, let's dive into this. Are you just blindly rereading notes instead of targeting what you're actually forgetting?
Because failing rigorous exams like the ACCA costs hundreds in retakes, and man, it totally kills your momentum.
Look, if studying doesn't force you to test yourself and risk being wrong, you're just going to forget it. Enter predictive learning analytics. This massive 2026 trend uses AI to predict what you'll forget right before it happens.
These tools actually monitor your error logs to serve up perfect review timings for your slipping concepts.
Imagine brute forcing a massive textbook all weekend while a classmate surgically studies 3 AI-flagged formulas. Crazy, right? Just look at the data here. AI-driven study gives you flexible hours, but absolutely massive retention and relevance. In fact, early adopters of this predictive tech report a literally game-changing 60% boost in long-term retention. So please, abandon outdated passive habits right now. Repetitive reading and endless highlighting, they simply do not work.
Do this instead. Toss the highlighters, grab an AI-spaced repetition tool like ACCA, and hit targeted microbursts.
This means your daily commutes or lunch breaks instantly transform into super powerful, targeted 15-minute learning moments.
Then, your big weekend study blocks are only spent attacking the exact weak areas the AI flagged.
So, will you keep brute forcing your studies or let predictive AI literally guarantee your retention starting today? Let's jump into this explainer. The totally exclusive secret club of private equity, it's finally opening its doors. For decades, big institutions held a VIP pass to massive wealth engines, completely locking out everyday investors like us. Take private credit, for instance. It's literally reshaping a staggering $41 trillion credit market right now.
But get this, institutions allocate 17% there, while regular wealth portfolios sit at a measly 4%.
So why are those closed doors suddenly opening? It all comes down to the rapid evolution of indexation.
Indexing moved from equities to fixed income. Now, better data and tech are unlocking the next massive frontier.
That's private market indexation. It finally brings real transparency and solid benchmarks to historically shady, opaque investments.
And the timing? Absolutely perfect. Investable private assets are projected to hit $26 trillion by 2030. Why? Because companies are staying private way longer, creating massive credit and infrastructure opportunities outside standard public markets.
Let's picture your actual everyday wealth app. Imagine logging in right now to check your investments.
Instead of just stocks, you see direct investments seamlessly blended with private infrastructure and private credit.
Mixing in these previously exclusive assets lowers your portfolio's volatility and unlocks incredibly stable inflation-linked income.
It's time to rethink things. That classic, static 60-40 portfolio is just not the only path to stability anymore. In fact, private funds are on track to replace up to 15% of traditional lending soon.
Everyday wealth is evolving toward that institutional 50-30-20 split. Honestly, you really don't want to be left behind.
So stop relying entirely on the past. Go look up one private market index fund today.
We just covered a massive financial shift. The real question is your portfolio ready to join the club?
Forget basic lending. Ever wonder how Wall Street actually makes billions using its own proprietary capital? Let's dive in.
So, what happens when banks stop just lending and use their massive cash piles to aggressively speculate? Check this out. Banks totally stopped caring if you repaid them, simply because they already sold off your debt. Their weapon of choice? Securitization. Basically, bundling thousands of sketchy loans into one shiny, tradable product. This set off a crazy feedback loop, artificially pumping up prices and, well, birthing a massive economic bubble. Take Bear Stearns. They chased wild returns by hoarding those toxic subprime mortgages right on their own books. But here's the catch. They funded these long-term toxic assets by desperately borrowing cash in overnight repo markets.
Can you imagine? A multi-billion-dollar bank facing a literal daily vote just to survive until tomorrow morning.
When the bubbles finally burst, the Fed actually bent the rules, using JP Morgan to secretly funnel them cash.
Now, Bear wasn't the first to manipulate paper assets. Let's compare this to the infamous Enron illusion.
Years earlier, Enron weaponized special purpose entities, or SPEs, to create a complete mirage of corporate profit. It was wild. They totally bypassed scrutiny by dumping their actual massive debts straight into off-the-books paper companies.
They'd borrow billions, falsely log it as instant income, and completely hide the real debt from investors.
So, regulations finally cracked down on these proprietary risks. Now, traditional banks are seriously backing away from lending.
But that risk didn't vanish. Nope, it just migrated to a massive $41 trillion private credit market. Private funds are jumping in, totally avoiding the strict capital and liquidity rules that tie up regular banks. Crazy enough, banks now actually pay these private funds to absorb the risk of their very own loans.
So, with all this risk just hiding in private shadows, are we actually safe from the next crash?
Welcome to The Explainer. We really need to talk about a massive shift hitting finance right now. Because quantum computers, they're going to completely destroy traditional financial forecasting.
Which begs a pretty terrifying question. Is your current tech stack already completely obsolete?
By 2026, quantum tech is jumping straight from the lab directly into your boardroom. It's infiltrating strategic agendas everywhere, solving intractable optimization problems we used to think were impossible. We're talking about unprecedented computational power here, unlocking entirely new quantum-secure infrastructure. Institutions like Morgan Stanley are actually already pioneering quantum-secure transactions today. And this fundamentally reshapes everything about how we look at risk management and innovation roadmaps. So to really get the stakes here, picture this incredibly frustrating scenario. Imagine running a wildly complex portfolio risk simulation on your standard legacy servers. You spend 3 agonizing weeks just sitting around, waiting for the modeling to process, only to realize a rival firm just completely blew your entire strategy out of the water. How? They used a quantum processor to run a vastly superior optimization in exactly 30 seconds. 30 seconds versus 3 weeks. That is a totally devastating contrast in speed, right? So this isn't just about generating alpha anymore. It's literally about your sheer competitive survival. You've got to stop ignoring quantum advancements in finance, or you will get left behind. Your homework is super simple. Go read just one case study today about quantum computing pilots. Specifically, look at how these crazy models are currently being piloted for financial risk modeling. Because the winners will be the ones building data-driven, modular models right now to design the future. So tell me, are you ready for the new 30-second standard, or are you history?
Right, let's dive into the quiet threat that's literally destroying corporate balance sheets globally.
You might not realize it, but extreme weather, it's already a massive financial crisis for investors.
$220 billion. That's the estimated economic cost of physical climate risk in 2025 alone. We aren't just talking about the environment here. Physical climate risk is a direct hit to corporate profitability.
Check this out. Data from the LSEG report perfectly illustrates the massive global economic exposure we're facing. A staggering $28.3 trillion of global GDP is absolutely at risk by 2050. So, smart investors, they're aggressively demanding corporate adaptation and resilience strategies right now to protect their capital.
Imagine you invest heavily in a top-performing logistics company. On paper, everything looks absolutely great, right?
Then, bam, their primary coastal hub floods, supply chains halt completely, and their stock price tanks overnight.
This shows the stark reality between holding truly resilient assets versus completely vulnerable ones.
The crucial takeaway here, you've got to stop ignoring environmental factors in your portfolio right now.
Seriously, open your investment app today. Find your top 3 holdings and check their ESG resilience rating.
Like European regulators are emphasizing, climate resilience is shifting from just a compliance issue to a massive value driver.
So ask yourself, are your investments built to actually weather the storm or face absolute financial ruin?
Right, let's dive into the quiet threat that's literally destroying corporate balance sheets globally.
You might not realize it, but extreme weather, it's already a massive financial crisis for investors.
$220 billion. That's the estimated economic cost of physical climate risk in 2025 alone. We aren't just talking about the environment here. Physical climate risk is a direct hit to corporate profitability.
Check this out. Data from the LSEG report perfectly illustrates the massive global economic exposure we're facing. A staggering $28.3 trillion of global GDP is absolutely at risk by 2050.
So, smart investors? They're aggressively demanding corporate adaptation and resilience strategies right now to protect their capital.
Imagine you invest heavily in a top-performing logistics company. On paper, everything looks absolutely great, right? Then, bam, their primary coastal hub floods, supply chains halt completely, and their stock price tanks overnight.
This shows the stark reality between holding truly resilient assets versus completely vulnerable ones.
The crucial takeaway here, you've got to stop ignoring environmental factors in your portfolio right now. Seriously, open your investment app today. Find your top 3 holdings and check their ESG resilience rating. Like European regulators are emphasizing, climate resilience is shifting from just a compliance issue to a massive value driver. So ask yourself, are your investments built to actually weather the storm or face absolute financial ruin?
Welcome to The Explainer. Here's a wild thought. Basic real-world asset tokenization is already completely outdated.
As A16Z Crypto points out, standard tokenization is skeuomorphic. It totally ignores true crypto-native features.
So if everyone's obsessed with tokenized real-world assets, why are top investors suddenly jumping ship?
It's because traditional tokenization literally just copies the old, slow financial system onto a blockchain. You get an asset that looks super modern, but it still suffers from severely trapped capital.
Enter the 2026 solution. We call it perpification. It's the crypto-native alternative investors are quietly adopting.
Instead of basic one-to-one tokens, smart money is using synthetic representations, like perpetual futures.
So the real game changer here is the jump from rigid tokens to deep liquidity perpification.
As A16Z Crypto notes, these synthetic derivatives are simpler to implement and offer massively deeper liquidity. Let's actually illustrate this liquidity trap to see the massive tactical advantage perpification gives you.
Imagine you're stuck holding an illiquid, tokenized real estate asset and there are absolutely 0 buyers. Meanwhile, your rival is instantly trading synthetic perps, tapping into massive global liquidity. They get 24/7 programmable settlement, no waiting for banking hours or hunting for direct buyers.
Plus, perps provide easy leverage and are way simpler to implement than full legal tokenization.
Experts even see emerging market equities as a prime target for this entire perpetuification model.
Okay, time for the takeaway. How do you actively apply this to your own strategy today?
You need to research how synthetic representations like perps can add deep liquidity to your portfolio. So ask yourself, is your portfolio stuck waiting for buyers, or is it perpified for the future?
Let's dive right into this explainer. Here's a hard truth. Nobody understands your financial forecasts. You do all the hard work, but your audience's eyes just glaze over. So why is that? Because we finance pros often overwhelm non-finance teams with a massive barrage of raw data. Look, dumping a giant wall of numbers leaves your stakeholders totally confused, not informed. The solution to this frustrating disconnect? It isn't better math. It's actually better storytelling. The cognitive framework to fix this is the rule of 3. It's a real game changer. It boosts clarity by organizing your complex message into exactly 3 distinct, easy-to-digest parts. This builds a perfectly structured narrative. Lead with the bottom line, add 3 drivers, then reinforce. Always give your single key insight first before you ever dive into the background data. Let's illustrate this. Imagine you're meeting your sales director about a missed revenue target. The old way? You literally bombard them with 12 different variance metrics explaining the miss. This data dump just makes your colleague defensive and confused instead of actually fixing the problem. Contrast that chaotic data dump with the sharp, actionable clarity of structured insights. Using the rule of 3, you pinpoint the exact 3 issues so they can take action. Now for the teaching moment, how do you apply this today to increase your influence? Restructure your very next departmental budget email to follow this exact 3-step framework. Include only your bottom line recommendation and exactly 3 supporting drivers, literally nothing more. Remember, actively simplifying your message is what directly increases your influence across the entire business. So before hitting send next time, ask yourself, are your numbers telling a story or making noise?
Welcome to This Explainer. Listen, never trust a broke financial advisor. Let's talk about skin in the game.
You've seen all those flashy online finance gurus, but who should actually handle your hard-earned life savings? Here's the bottom line. They need skin in the game. Don't trust anyone who dodges personal risk. Watch out for red flags, guaranteed outcomes, blind overconfidence, or constantly pushing you into pricey paid courses. Crypto platforms promised massive easy gains. But guys, a completely risk-free yield? That is just a delusion. The upside might be 5%, but the downside? Losing literally 100% of your money overnight. Look at Enron. Their charismatic leaders hid reckless risks. Why? Because they didn't share the actual downside. When managers lack accountability, catastrophe strikes. Enron's collapse wiped out $60 billion almost overnight. It's insane. If they aren't investing their own capital, they will take reckless risks with your money. That's the truth. Bad advisors let ego and greed drive bad trades. Trustworthy managers, they stay totally humble to mitigate risk. Compare the hyperactive online guru to a patient spearfisherman, just waiting quietly for the perfect strike. Warren Buffett and Charlie Munger totally embody this. They wait patiently for quality businesses at fair prices. Talk about ultimate skin in the game. Buffett literally pledged over 99% of his wealth to philanthropy. He built Berkshire as a safe, long-term vehicle. He treats his shareholders' money exactly like his own. But here's the catch. Only invest when their personal wealth is tied directly to your success. Make sense?